To make you the smartest person in the room, sometimes we have to talk about strategy that the media and lawyers and political operatives do. So you can sometimes sniff out when there's a problem. Specifically, I want to talk about how there's an interrelationship in many instances between what is said to the press, often anonymously, what the press reports, and what appears in investigations and in legal filings in court cases. Let's break it all down when we get back. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar. And we have great news, folks. We have been nominated for a 2025 Gundy's Award in the category of Top Voices for the 2A or the Second Amendment. That's right, Mark Smith and the Four Boxes Diner has been nominated for a Gundy's Award 2025 in the Top Voices for the 2A. Feel free, I encourage you, if you'd like to, vote for the Four Boxes Diner. I know we've been a finalist in some categories. We've been nominated for several years in the past. We've never won one, but this year I feel like we're going to break through and we're going to win the Gundy's Award finally. That's what the hope is. We're going to light a lot of candles here at the Four Boxes Diner and keep our fingers crossed and hope all goes well. Of course, we're happy to lose to our fellow Second Amendment supporters. They are winners too. Although this year, we're going to take them out for the Gundys, I hope. All right, guys. So now we have to talk about a strategy that plays out. It's sort of an inside baseball strategy, but I want you to understand how it gets connected up. This is done in various ways, so I'm going to keep it very generic so you can kind of see what happens. The reason why I want to bring this up is how these things get connected is a couple of days ago, there was a report filed, so the reports go, that Hunter Biden's lawyers had issued some sort of very lengthy defense in support of his gun-related crimes and his tax evasion crimes, arguing that the prosecutions of Hunter Biden were really political prosecutions. They're not appropriate. If you were anyone else in America, it wouldn't happen to you. I'm skeptical about all of the above, but let's assume for the sake of argument, there's some merit to the argument, okay? The bottom line is that this was an argument made by Hunter Biden's lawyers, and it was apparently something like 52 pages long. Then, based on that report, okay, what happens? Well, within a day or two, it turns out that President Joe Biden pardons Hunter Biden, referencing, in effect, this 52-page report that laid out in extreme detail how the political prosecutions of Hunter Biden were exactly that. They were political prosecutions and not based on the merits and not based on the facts. And that the argument was that if anybody else had committed these crimes, these tax crimes or these gun crimes, they would not have even been charged. But because his last name was Biden and he's Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's son, he was charged. And therefore, he shouldn't have been. And as a consequence, of course, from that, Joe Biden pardoned Hunter Biden, basically relying on that report. So do you see how that connection is a filing of a document in court and then the use of that document by Joe Biden to pardon his son, which I said repeatedly on Fox News was going to happen. That was inevitable. And frankly, if you're Joe Biden, why wouldn't you do it? It'd be stupid not to do it. But that's not the point of this video. I want to connect some other dots that happen here. You got to understand the role of anonymous sources in lawsuits, anonymous sources in legal cases, in investigations, and in PR attacks on people, including against political figures. And I just want to talk to you generally about how it works, keeping it very generic. It works in a lot of different ways, but you'll get the sense by me just describing it generally. It's not unusual, of course, for you to pick up the newspaper or to read online that somebody, some anonymous source, some anonymous official, off the record, working for some part of the federal government, the Department of Justice, the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, the EPA, the White House, Congress, some congressperson, whatever. Somebody has made an off-the-record comment or statement about something. And the press reports the news story that says, Donald Trump is reported to have done this according to anonymous sources, or someone said this based on anonymous sources that we've spoken with, or something happened in the White House, or something happened in the car, or something happened overseas, or something happened in the meeting, according to anonymous sources. You've seen that quite a bit, but that's not actually where the game ends. Certainly, it's great if you're a member of the media to take these anonymous sources that are often politically motivated. That's the anticipation, that's what you would expect. And write some story against some organization, some person, some political figure, some cause, whatever it is, and attack somebody or something, right? But that's just the start of the good stuff if you're one of the people that are trying to play this game. Because in addition to the fact this anonymous source gives rise to a news story, which people can talk about on YouTube, on Rumble, in the news and cable news, and write other stories about, right? The next thing that happens you'll often see is this. That report, that newspaper report, that blog report, whatever it is, will find its way into some sort of a legal filing, meaning there will be a lawsuit filed or some sort of argument made in court, or it might be some sort of argument filing report statement made in an investigation by Congress, by the Senate, by some state house official, whatever. So here you have an anonymous source to the press reports on the story gets published, people talk about the story, then that story is taken and cited as a source to say the Wall Street Journal reports, or the New York Times reports, or the New York Post reports, or blah, blah, blah blog reports, or some other organization reports, or somebody's report, whatever it happens to be, doesn't matter. You get the point. Some news organization will report generically on this story, and it might be a legitimate news story, by the way. In other words, it may be a legitimate thing that's being reported. That's not impossible. But you got to understand the lifespan of how these anonymous statements, these anonymous reports play out. So again, in these congressional hearings or in these court filings, there's a reference to these reports. So again, you see how this is going. An anonymous source is made to the press writes a story, the story is then used in a legal proceeding, either in a court case or in some sort of legal legislative hearing of some sort, to talk about the issue. And then when that occurs, the media steps back up and they report on that legal filing or that hearing or that court case, whatever it is, and so on and so on and so on. So it's very important to understand all the different ramifications that go into these anonymous leaks, these anonymous sources provided to various members of the press, and then they're reported on. Now, I believe, without getting into details, I believe that this concern is a legitimate reason why the Trump transition team is doing all of their work in Mar-a-Lago, in Florida, rather than touching fingers with Washington, D.C. in any real respect. Why? Because if there's no communication between the Trump transition team and Deep State and the FBI or anyone in Washington, there cannot be any fake leaks. There cannot be any anonymous statements made or anonymous sources say blah, 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 because they don't have access to that. That is why, in my opinion, so many of these people are so upset that Donald Trump is not using right now the FBI to engage in these background checks. And Donald Trump has refused to receive these transition briefings from the intelligence community or from the FBI because they don't want any possibility that someone in the deep state is going to start having an opportunity to start leaking fake news about what's going on. In addition to the fact they probably don't want the deep state to know what's really going on. Because if you don't have meetings with the FBI, if you don't have meetings with the intelligence community, if you don't talk to the various people in Washington, they can't then say in a meeting with blah, 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 this was said and this is bad. No, they're not able to do that. And that is why I think it is a genius move for Donald Trump and his transition team to be locked up in a sense. He's not locked up, of course, but you get the point. To be locked up in Mar-a-Lago in Florida and to stay far, far away from Washington, D.C. And as a side note, I've said this on X, at 4Boxes Diner. If you're not following me on at 4Boxes Diner, you really should. It's free on X and all that, but the point is you should. I got over 20,000 people, and I do a lot more. I'm able to do a lot more stuff throughout the day that I can shoot videos throughout the day, so you should check me out at 4Boxes Diner. I am of the view that Donald Trump should have his inauguration not in Washington, D.C. I'm of the view personally that Donald Trump should be sworn into office as president in Florida or somewhere else and force all the people or encourage or invite people to go spend money on hotels and at events in a red state. Why bring all these Americans to Washington, D.C., and to give all those 93% of whom voted for the Democrats, Kamala Harris, and give them all money and tip them at the coffee bars and give them money for their hotels and so on and so on and so on? Why do that? And by the way, there's no legal requirement that Donald Trump be sworn in Washington, D.C., because we know, for example, Lyndon B. Johnson was sworn in on an airplane after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. All right, folks, so there you have it. Hope you enjoyed watching here today. Make sure you follow me at 4Boxes Diner on X. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to vote for me, 4Boxes Diner, at the Gundy Awards for 2025 Top Voices of 2A, and I appreciate it. And make sure you share this video with your friends, and I look forward to talking to you all again real soon here at the 4Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.